Welcome, fellow last placers, to another episode of LPF Debrief, where Chris and I discuss movies, TV shows, and anime. Yes, I'm back. I'm back, and I hit it, and I nailed it.
No
And-
comments.
yeah. In today's episode, we are going to be listing our our top 9 episodes in ranking the orders of the episodes of What If. See, I did the intro right, and I totally
Hey,
messed
it's
it
all
up.
right. It's all good.
But we're gonna move on. But basically, you will see it in the title, so you'll know exactly what it
Yeah.
is. We're gonna
So
rank our what if episodes from 9 to 1, and we're just gonna do like a little brief summary on them and
yeah,
things like
it'll
that.
be a nice
Uh,
closure for the What If series. This is gonna be the last episode until season 2, and
yeah, and
we'll talk
then
about it.
we'll also do this. This is something Chris and I thought about while we were doing the episodes of this. So now we'll just do it for every other what if. I mean, whatever LPF debrief we do,
Yeah.
if it's episodic, we'll just rank the episodes and stuff like that. Before we go start, we're going to do the same thing we always do, and that's shame Yendi for not watching the content that we do. So shame.
Shame.
And then, like we've been doing recently, also, there might be spoilers on this one. I'm not sure because we're just going to be giving a summary of the episode. But also, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff so we can do this mouse giveaway that we are still doing. Now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, Chris and I, before this started, decided we are going to try to guess each other's number one before we get into it. So, Chris, what do you think my number one is? I think you'll
Oh,
know what my number one is.
I'm gonna say episode 8. What if Ultron won?
Okay. Okay. I'm going to say yours is.
Hold on, let me get my poker face because I'm gonna laugh.
I'm going to say
Go ahead.
yours is Star-Lord T'Challa.
Okay.
All right. So let's get into the list. We'll just do it this way. We're going to go like not both of us are going to say our number 9, why it's our number 9, and just give like a little summary on it and then go down. So, Chris, starting with you, number 9.
Almost read my number 1.
Oh,
I was like, why is that?
yeah.
My number 9 is episode 1. What if Captain
Yep.
Carter were the first Avenger?
Okay.
Reason for that being is it didn't bring anything new. It was literally, to me, just a copy and paste. It was a copy and paste of Captain America, the normal Captain America. So it didn't offer too much, except for the ending changing up a little bit. This was the one that I was just like, okay, I feel like we're rushing, but at the same time, it feels kind of slow. So it just made me feel weird in general. So that is why it is my number 9.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep. Number 9 for me is actually Marvel Zombies.
Oh.
I was not the biggest fan of this episode, even when we were talking about it originally. And also, another note, we do have individual discussions of each of these episodes. So if you guys want a more detailed version of this, you just can go back and check those out. They're all listed. Go check them out.
Yeah.
But Marvel Zombies, the reason why it just for me, I felt like, and this is partly biased because I read the comics and stuff like that. I just feel like it didn't do much for me in the sense of like how everything else had like a reason. I feel like they just did the what if Marvel Zombies because it was a popular story and they were like, here, let's give you guys what Marvel Zombies, like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
to me, I feel like the same way you said like Captain Carter didn't bring anything new. I didn't really feel anything new for Marvel Zombies either. Like I just felt like it was a story we all had already done,
Mm-hmm.
and the where it was placed also kind of made it seem like, well, we've been doing all these interesting, crazy out there stories, and then we're just gonna go back to do Marvel Zombies. I also thought that was one of the cheesiest episodes where they were forcing lines from the movies and stuff like that. So overall, for me, it was my least favorite, and that's not to say that I didn't like the episode. That's just saying out of the 9, it's my
Yeah, out
least
of the
favorite.
9. Yeah. That goes for everything we say. At the
Yeah,
bottom of the list doesn't
pretty
mean
much. Because
like,
I liked
oh, stay away from
every
this
episode. Yeah,
episode. It was like
yeah,
everything was good. It's just, we just like other episodes more than others. So
yeah.
we love
So
you,
that
Marvel.
would be my yeah. That's my number 9. So all right, moving on. Number 8 to you,
My
Chris.
number 8 is actually What If Zombies.
Okay. See?
Yeah, it's close to the bottom there. There was it left me with too many questions You know what I
Yes,
mean? Like
a
we're
lot of
still
questions.
wondering about what happened to Thanos. Like, how does he show up as a zombie? The whole Hope going big and not shrinking there at the end, and realizing like nobody else realized that we're gonna have a giant zombie in just a few moments. So the coolest part of that about that episode was uh Vision basically. I guess you would say he was the bad guy.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
he was a kind of the bad guy because
he
he
did it for
was
love, but
keeping. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So seeing Wanda as a zombie was crazy, and that was really cool in the episode. But yeah,
Yeah.
other than that, it felt, you were right. It felt very cheesy, and compared to the comics, um, they went different from the comics. But it's okay. Like they have to tell their own story. I understand that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and
this
that
one,
wasn't my issue with that. It was just like I said, it just at knowing the story already from where
yeah,
it came from, and then like having it transition to something different. Just it didn't really feel like you
yeah.
said like to me it didn't feel new.
I'm glad they did it though. I am glad
Yeah.
they actually animated that. I
Hmm.
love that I got to see that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
What about your
Perfect.
number
So
8?
number 8 for me. Oh man, this one actually just changed like right just now, and it's going to be Captain Carter. I had this one and 7 could have from this one and 7 for me could have switched.
Okay,
So
okay.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah.
It is what it is. Like you know what I mean. But I'm gonna say, and that's not to say like I said before. It's not that I don't like the character. I just feel like with these stories, especially now once you do the whole season in totality, this episode it was just very much a carbon copy of of an original story, right? It didn't have really that much balance on like here's a completely new story. Like we pretty much got everything that was Captain America, like you know what I mean, but it was Peggy, and I think they could have done a better job at like making her a different character. Like, you know what I mean?
It's just
Making her feel a little bit different
yeah.
and like a little more different to me. Like, I think she's a great character, and I think you could have done some things that made her really feel different than Cap. But this was basically like, well, if she took the super soldier serum, she
Then the
would have been
paths were the same.
essentially,
Like it
yeah,
was making it like the paths were going to be the same.
yeah, it
Whereas
was gonna
if
all be the
yeah,
same. You know what I mean? Even though she did her things different and I love the character.
yeah.
I do love who she is. But it also goes to show what kind of character Peggy is, right?
Hmm.
So Peggy even and I think that's what they were going for is like Peggy was basically like a Steve. So if she did take over, it would pretty much be the same thing. And that I give them credit for, but also when you watch it as a whole episode, it does feel like she's basically the same character as Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my number 8. I'll just do my number 7 now
Yeah,
because,
yeah, yeah.
I'll do my number 7. My number 7 is actually the Doctor Strange episode. And the reason why my number 7 is a Doctor Strange episode is not because of the character, because the character I love. Like, I love that Doctor Strange. I think he's amazing. I think everything he did was cool, especially in the season finale. Like, the character himself is great. But like we talked about in the lengthier version of this, of the discussion of the episode, I felt like they harped on the way that she died way too much,
Yeah.
like in that episode. So like by the half of that episode, I was like, bro, okay, like we get it. She's not gonna make it. Like, you know what I mean? And I get that's what you want to show so we could be in that dread and have him go through all the like the stages of grief and stuff. But still, like we literally watched almost like 15 minutes of a 20-minute, like 23-minute, 24-minute episode of her just dying. Like, you know what I mean? So for me, that episode, not the character and not how it ended, because how it ended was perfect. And how the character developed was great. I just thought the episode itself could have been better. And I feel like we didn't have to harp on all the different ways of her dying, right? Like we got the point early, like, listen, there's no way you can save her, but then they took it like an extra 5 minutes of going, by the way, you still can't save her. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that's my number 7.
Number 7 is also episode 4 for me. What if Doctor Strange lost his
Yeah.
heart instead of his hands? I thought the same exact thing. Just we focused on her way too much.
Yeah.
On the death part. Some cool things was him obtaining all the monsters. It was a lot more. This was definitely a montage episode. So we had the
Mhm.
montage of death. And then after that, after the montage of death, we saw the montage of like how many years he stayed in that temple to gain all that power to bring her back. So it's just montage on top of another montage, and then you got the end clip of him being like her realizing like, oh my god, you're a monster, and I don't want anything to do with you. And then the cool thing was that was the first time that the Watcher starts to present himself. Like people are starting.
Well, that was
like,
the first time that someone noticed him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So was that also the episode? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I was trying to remember if that was the episode that what was it called? Like they're driving across the desert. I think that's the Thor episode, and he's like in the background, the silhouette of him. Yeah. Okay.
That's the Thor episode.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right. Yeah, but that's my number 7. Yeah, the ending was good, but montage on montage.
Drop the number 6 while
All right. Let me pull up my phone.
Uh-oh.
Number 6 is episode 7. What if Thor were an only child? I loved this episode a lot. I did, and it was very hard to put it as my number 6.
And that's a funny thing now that you mention it. It's hard, like, because that's how I feel about, like, I feel like those 3 episodes that we just named, because we had similar like bottom 3 episodes. And I think this is where, for me, I think
it was hard to put.
We're gonna have some differences, but it's hard. This one was actually like, I was like, because like I knew those top 3, like the 3 that I named, like the 9, 8, and 7 were 9, 8, and 7 for me. Like I knew it for a fact. And then when I went through 1 through 6, I was like, now which order do I put this in? Because I had no idea.
So I loved the episode. I loved all the characters that we got to see, all the background characters, and it was just a fun episode. Thor was a lot of fun to see, just being a partier, him linking up with Loki, brother from another mother, and them partying together, and seeing all the funny montages of what was going on. And then the what was it, that silhouette scene? I can't get it out of my head. Whenever they're driving across the desert, I'm waiting for a wallpaper to kind of come up for that. Itself. Yeah, but him like just standing in the background was awesome. And my favorite part of that whole thing was when his mom comes back to Earth.
Yeah.
and they're sitting there, he's like, trust mother, it's so good. It made me laugh. It was one of the more heartwarming episodes. And then we got into the whole twist there whenever Vision shows up with the Infinity Gauntlets Infinity Stones on his chest, and everybody, like, that's when you knew, like, okay, so the switch has finally been flipped and we're going back into darkness. So
so for me, number 6 was also Party Thor. The episode, like you said, pretty much exactly. I felt the exact same way. I thought the episode was great. I thought also the timing of the episode was perfect, because we talked about that also, where it was like 3 episodes were like extremely dark, and then we had like this light episode in the middle of it, which was fantastic. And then we just went right back to being dark. So this was like the perfect comic relief. And the character itself was the perfect comic relief, right? Because even then, when we get to the season finale, the character is the comic relief even in that. So I thought that the whole episode design was really good. It's hard. It was, for me, also hard to put it at number 6, because like, this was one of the ones that I fidgeted around, and I was like, I could have put this at like 4 or 5, like, because it was such a good timing of the episode, but I had to put it at my number 6, because the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what, this is going to be number 6. But honestly, if you talk to me tomorrow, it could be like 4, like, to be honest, you know what I mean? So that's the thing with my list. It could change depending.
Literally, So now we're in top 5 category. So I'll let you go ahead and start off with the top 5.
All right. For number 5, it's going to be the Killmonger episode. And this episode, again, like I was saying, through our 1 through 6, this one was tough to also judge, because just getting Michael B. Jordan back, which is amazing in itself, and then just the fact that we saw him be the villain that we knew he was, and that they didn't try to change him into a hero. Like, even though I had the theory that I thought, hey, you could make him Black Panther, which you could still do, and they did, honestly, in the episode, but it shows that some people just can't change, right? Because of the way that their past was. And this showed that for Killmonger. It was like, listen, I'm a smart dude. I was hurt in my past, but like that hurt still lives with me and I haven't gotten over it. So I still have to be evil. Like I still have to do things that, I don't agree with, even though like I still do things that like most people are not going to agree with because of my methods and my tactics,
Mm-hmm.
but like he still was trying to benefit himself. Like he was still trying to do it in a selfish way, like the opposite of what T'Challa was trying to do. So the fact that they kept that and he just did it by a different means is what I really like about this episode. And the fact that him and Tony get into the fight and Tony still kind of like is able to hold his own, even though he's not Iron Man anymore. Which was another cool thing to see, that like, what if Tony didn't become Iron Man?
Yeah.
Like this is one of the things that could have happened, and it was just good. Like the whole episode to me, I felt like was super solid. I thought Michael B was obviously perfect, and then T'Challa showing up in that episode also amazing, and just him doing that whole conversation at the end, where it's like, this is gonna catch up to you like at some point. So I definitely in my top 5. It was a great episode.
Yeah. So my number 5 is also the Killmonger episode.
Nice.
And it was very hard to pick that one, just like you, just for that T'Challa scene at the end, whenever he goes into the after, whenever he's getting the powers, and he goes into the afterlife and sees T'Challa, and they have that conversation. So good, man. So good. But yeah, like going quickly from how quickly we went from like, oh man, we get to see Killmonger as a hero, and then immediately switching, we're like, oh, this is way worse.
The thing is, he said it too, because he says it. The Watcher says at the beginning of that episode, he was like, even though some people some people may not have become a hero, doesn't change the fate of the villain.
Yeah.
Like it just makes villains become more like find a different way, and that's what happened. So
Yep.
it was it was perfect. Like it was a great episode for me, and like I said, this one did that great balance of, you gave us new content, like a new character, like you basically gave us a new version of the character, but you kept enough of the old stuff to where it was still relatable, and those were my favorite kind of episodes. So
Yeah.
that was my number 5. So hit us with your number 4, Chris.
My number 4 is. I want to make sure that I want to say this.
I mean, say it. Say it quickly.
All right, number is episode. Oh, okay. It's episode 9.
All right.
Okay, we'll go with episode 9. Okay. Season finale was great. It was fantastic. I love the way it ended. The Watcher bringing up these what was it called? The Guardians of the Multiverse.
Yep.
Right. Seeing them all together was really cool. And seeing more of Vision being more destructive, and a lot of those fight scenes. This is why it's like, I feel like this could change tomorrow, like within an hour. I'm gonna be like, you know what, that was wrong. But because I'm thinking about the fight scene when everybody's like just beating the crap out of him, and there was a lot of great moments in this episode. The team up specifically between Peggy and Black Widow, with the shields and stuff like that, it's just one of the. There was a lot of memorable moments in this, and all the way up to the end where Doctor Strange has a change of heart, and he knows that like, hey, my universe is screwed, but at least this is something I can do to make up for it, and he's the one who's going to be watching Killmonger and Zola, yeah. In that little orb, which I want to say, Marvel, if you're watching this, because I know you guys are, you should totally make that like a little pop scene thing. I would totally love to see the dome with.
They just came out with the Zola pop though, the Zola and Vision pop, where he has the Zola's coming out of the stomach.
Ooh.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll have to check that
sure
one out.
Did.
Yeah, but that's my number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is the Avengers episode. What if the Avengers did not, if we didn't get the Avengers? This was a surprise episode for me because I didn't know I wanted this episode at all. Like, because I thought that just the thought of it, and again, being that everything was so close-hearted and we didn't know a lot of what was going to happen in episodes until they actually happened. And we just saw Nick Fury for the preview, and I didn't watch the trailers or any of that, but it just was a great homage to Nick Fury's crazy week where, pretty much he was trying to assemble the Avengers. It was a good comic book nod. The episode itself went to a place where I didn't think they were going to go, which I was talking to Chris about. I want to see that Spider-Man episode that they axed, because if that episode was too dark and this one wasn't, then I need to see it. Because at this point, because I need to know, because some of the deaths in there, and then the twist was great because it was someone you didn't really expect it to be. I thought this episode was really strong, especially for it not having any of the major characters in it, right? Like it was just Nick Fury and Natasha. So, and not that I'm not saying they're not major characters. I'm just saying, like, as far as, Iron Man, Cap, Thor, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean when I say major. Or and then but you did have Spider-Man. So I retract what I just said.
Crazy.
But
It's still crazy to me that it's all in a week. Like,
yeah,
it's so nuts
it was,
that
yeah,
all that happened.
that whole thing was in a week,
Yeah.
right? So it was that the whole story itself was amazing, like all of that happening at that time, and then them finding out who it was, and then him and Loki having the alliance at the end to basically, get rid of Yellow Jacket. I thought it was a well thought out episode that I didn't know I wanted, and it was my biggest surprise episode out of all of them, and I really enjoyed this. So it is my number 4. All right. So we're on 3, right?
Yeah, so you can do number 3.
Okay. So my number 3 is What If Ultron won? So
damn it.
yeah. So the top 3 is one of those where I just said what I said earlier. These 3 could go in pretty much any order. So but right now I'm feeling What If Ultron won. And Chris, I know why you picked that, because you know how I feel about villains, and that's why you went with that. So I appreciate that. But this was a great villain story, right? Like it was perfect in the sense that we found out a way Ultron could win and actually defeat the Avengers, and the character itself, and then just him exploring all that stuff and getting the stones, and then what he did to Thanos, and basically him fighting that whole thing of trying to discover where the Watcher was, because he had a new goal. Like, even though he had one goal and he was completing it, he started to escalate his goals every single time. So the character itself was just so good, and it was played so well. It was a crazy episode, and I easily could have put this as in my number 1 episode. So you're not totally wrong on that, Chris, but this was a great episode. So it is in the top 3.
All right, my number 3 is episode 3, What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Avenger or Mightiest Heroes, and this was the one that I was struggling between 3 and 9. Yeah. It was almost going to be my number 4, but like you said, with episode 3, it was an episode I didn't know I wanted. There were so many surprises in it, and I felt like there was a lot more suspense. Like I was freaking out by the time Hawkeye was in the prison and they run in and they're like, yeah, he's gone. I'm like, yeah. I was literally sitting in the living room like, what is happening? Like, what's going on?
It was insane.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what was happening. And freaking the Hulk blowing up, like the way he dies, gruesome episode. And I loved every second of it. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Great episode.
Yeah, fantastic episode. And it's still, I got to pick up that comic. That whole, because I want to read it. Like the fact that, the fact that it's all in a week, it just keeps blowing my mind. But yeah, that's my number 3.
Yeah, nice. So hit us with your number 2.
My number 2 is episode 8, What If Ultron won? That Watcher, this one specifically is for the Watcher fighting him. There was a lot of oh shit moments where whenever he finds the Watcher and the Watcher runs away from the glass, that scene sticks to my head. And then that whole fight scene where we get to see the Watcher in his armor and they're fighting through the universes, and we see all the different universes and them punching
through the universe.
Yes, it was so cool. So that's amazing. This episode was great. And also can't forget freaking the Galactus Easter egg there. That specifically is just there's so much to this episode, and that's why it's my number 2. It's fantastic. I loved it.
It is a great episode for sure. My number 2 is going to be the Guardians of the Multiverse episode. And it was this was again, for a lot of the things that Chris mentioned, that episode to me was I feel like lately we always get gypped out of season finales, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel cheated out of this one, right?
No.
Like I felt like we got a season finale that made sense. We got the ways that all of these stories connected, even though I predicted it, knowing that, hey, I feel like, because remember, I said it earlier, I was like, they're all going to come together at some point for some reason. And I knew that, even knowing that, the episode was still great because it was like, oh, they actually did it. The Watcher's plan was great, all of that stuff. And then the fight scene was just amazing. I mean, Doctor Strange, anytime he can show off his real power, which is one of my favorite moments in Infinity War, is when him and Thanos fights. Like, that's one of my favorite fight scenes because you get to actually see what Doctor Strange can do. And now we have like a real Sorcerer Supreme Doctor Strange who
Mm-hmm.
knows has all of these other powers. So it was amazing to see Doctor Strange do that and him to bring in the Marvel zombies through the portal, like him bringing in Scarlet Witch, like all of the stuff he did in that episode was just amazing. And then the interactions with everybody, right? With Thor meeting all these new people and him, the Vegas, like the people of Las Vegas, like all that stuff to me was just, I was like, man, this was a great season finale. It was like, and then even up until the end, right, where Natasha gets to go with the Avengers team that doesn't have a Black Widow,
Yeah.
right, and all of that. Just, I felt like from beginning to end, that episode really did what a season finale should do. It closed like that section off, and then we're going to be ready for another one. So, and then even with the whole thing with Zola and Killmonger, we had a lot happen in that
Oh
episode.
yeah.
And Zola and Killmonger goes back to his ways, to where he's trying to like, oh, well, I'm trying to fix this, even though we saw what he was doing to Wakanda.
And him
And
being
then Zola,
manipulative too, like
yeah,
him trying to be
and then
manipulate
him and
the
the
rest of
star,
them.
him and T'Challa, he's like, you're not like, oh, he's like, this, you're definitely not from this world, like
Yeah.
from my, like, all that stuff. Just it was a good, everything felt smooth. It didn't feel like it was like, what I mean, like rushed or anything like that. The pacing was perfect. Meeting, a meeting Black Widow in the world where she was like, didn't have anybody anymore, and the Watcher kind of get saying, you know what, I'll help you out, like, what I mean. So that to me is a really strong episode, and again, could go anywhere in my top three. Like, it could literally go anywhere from 1 to 3. So yeah,
All
so that is
right.
my number 2, and then I will just do my number 1 now,
Down, down,
and
down, down, down,
it is
down,
the
down,
Star
down, down,
Lord
down, down,
T'Challa.
down, down,
And
down.
yes, I mean, obviously, you know, Star Lord T'Challa.
Hell yeah.
So, start listening. And there's reasoning behind that, and I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it was, Chadwick, one of his last performances. All of that did 100% play a factor into the episode itself. But also, the episode was just really, really, really good. Like, the fact that and I think it was because it was episode 2 also, right? So
Yeah.
it being episode 2 and us not knowing exactly what was going to happen, I thought this episode did exactly what I personally wanted from the series, which was, it gave us a great balance, right? Like, you gave us a brand new story, but we also saw how great of a person T'Challa would be no matter where he was put, right? So him just being able to galvanize that whole, like the whole universe, the whole galaxy, essentially, you know what I mean? And he literally got Thanos to not be a bad guy. Like, you know what I mean? And just the impact that he had on the character kind of feels like the impact that he literally had on us, right? So
Yeah.
like, it's just like, I don't know. I just can't explain how much I like love this episode. And like I said, I went back and forth with it because I was like, man, like, people are gonna say this because, well, yes, part of that 100% is why. But to me, it was just the best episode. I feel like his goal was great. How he got there was hilarious, which harps on the less serious note. Like, him having that whole conversation with I always forget his name. It starts with a K. Like, at the beginning, where he's like, "You're Star Lord," and everyone
Oh
knowing
yeah.
exactly who he is, and like, him and his relationship with Nebula. Like, it was all good. It was all perfect to me.
Yeah. It was
So
a
that 100% my favorite
yeah,
episode.
it's my number one also, guys.
I
it's
know.
I mean,
I got it.
yeah. So It was just a fantastic. It was a thank you episode. It literally was, man. It was nothing but a whole bunch of quotes, basically, letting us know, like, even though he's gone, like, we had, like, the work that he left behind, um, is fantastic, and he really cared about getting a message across, and he cared about what people. He cared about feelings and what people thought. Like, he was a very inspirational person. This episode touched me. I had like the biggest smile on my face the whole time. It was funny. It was very inspirational.
The action was good.
Yeah,
Like
action was great.
There's not a really there's no flaw in this episode to me.
No, there was not. And then the fact that moment where everybody's sitting together and they're all crowded, and you see Thanos and you see the Dora Milaje, you see everybody in one room, and they're all just celebrating, and it was like kind of celebrating his life. It was a beautiful thing, and I loved it.
Yep. So yeah, I 100% agree with all the things you said there, because it's just, it felt like that. And I was also surprised why they put it as episode 2, which is why I even came up with that theory of they're all just going to meet at the end, because there's no way that you put this at the beginning and not expect us to not see him again. So just, again, the way he affected that world and the way he affected space, and just him being such a lighthearted character, even though he got transported to a world he never even thought of. Like, it was so different from him being in Wakanda to going out in space and seeing the journey and all that stuff. So I thought, it definitely my number 1 episode. So it's Chris's number 1 episode, and that's pretty much the rankings for the episodes. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, do all that good stuff so we can give away this mouse. We do not know when our next LPF debrief episode, we're going to work something out. We might be doing Squid Games, but I don't want to guarantee it because it's not on me, because I will finish it in time, but it's the person we always shame, Yendi.
He's done.
So we don't. Okay, so it's
it.
on me then. If it's on me, then it's gonna happen. Okay, y'all. So I'm gonna make sure I catch up on there, because the memes are getting out of hand, and I need now. Because I'm seeing the memes everywhere. I kind of have a concept of it just off of memes. So I have to watch it.
And a funny thing is that you said I don't want you. You didn't want the FOMO.
No, I don't. The thing is, it doesn't bother me. Honestly, I probably still wouldn't have watched it if you guys didn't want to do a debrief on it. But because we might do a debrief on it,
also maybe we'll do one on Dune. Dune seems like a very big
Dune
movie.
Doesn't come out till next month. Though.
What?
Next month, right? Is it October? You might be right. I don't know.
I think
November.
Uh-oh.
I thought. Oh wait, did I freeze?
Yeah, you froze a little bit. It's okay.
It's all right. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was next. It's not next month. Well, we'll check it out.
We'll figure
it out. So be on the lookout. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button so that you guys can know exactly when we go live.
Yeah. Let us know
on Twitter.
Yeah. Let us know your your listings. Put it in the comments, man. I want to see how similar everybody's is.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. Yeah, put the rankings, put your personal rankings in the comments so we can compare and things like that. So remember, guys, every Tuesday we are live at 8 p.m. Eastern. Come check us out. But besides that, What If? Thank you. It was a great series. Can't wait for season 2. And until we see you guys next time, Fire Team out.